Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content that I'm making, please click that subscribe button. Also remember to click that bell button and make sure to tick that box to send all notifications so you don't miss out on any videos. With that in mind, let's get on with the video. What's up guys, welcome to Munchkins Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Munchkins logging in to bring you another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. In this video, it's my video guide for Basch's event, Captain's Loyalty, and of course this will be covering the Chaos fight. So as always, we'll start this off with the boss's weaknesses, resistances, elements that it can absorb, and of course its abilities. In this fight, it is the Might Eater. Now, it has quite a lot of weaknesses for a Chaos fight. It's weak to fire, ice, wind, and dark elements. It doesn't have any resistances, but it can absorb thunder and earth elements. As for its ability, let's start off with the Tentacle, which is a melee brave attack, Perforating Tentacle, which is a melee HP attack, High Pitch Acoustics, which is a group magic brave attack, which also inflicts a defense down debuff, Sprinkle, which is a magic brave attack, which can inflict sap debuff. This also has a plus version, which also grants itself an attack up buff for itself. Next is Soul Stones, which summons the Might Eaters. This can restore the allies' HP if the two allies are actually present in the field. Next is Dance of Tentacles, which increases its brave when its brave is less than its initial brave, and will do a group melee brave attack plus HP attack. Next up, it has Mineral Thrust, which is a melee brave attack, which also increases its brave. It also has, again, a plus version, which basically just gets more brave increase. Ground Claw, which is a increased brave again with a group magic HP attack. Absorb Energy, which increases its brave when its brave is less than its initial brave, and then will absorb all the enemy's brave and will do a group magic HP attack. Next is Flash of Weakness, which basically lowers everyone's max HP. Basically, this is not a frame debuff or an actual debuff. It is like an aura, but it will use it at the start of the fight. Mouth Open Wide, which is a text that you will see, basically increasing all its stats, and Mouth Open Wider further raises all those stats. And the Might Eater is also immune to initial Brave Down debuff as well. Okay, so now that we know its abilities, weaknesses, resistances, and elements it can absorb, let's take a look at some general tips and guide. And the first one is to save about 70% of your abilities for the last boss. This is actually quite achievable since this is only a two-wave fight. The first wave is basically just the worms, so they aren't really that much of a struggle or hard to beat. You can actually definitely save at least 70% of your abilities on this one. Next is of course to bring in the boosted characters. In this case there are 4, which is Basch, Fawn, Sarah, and of course Locke. Now if you don't have any of these characters, other characters that you may want to consider are Ultimisia, Warrior of Light, Squall, Ace, Kuja, Ramza, Garland, Ferris, Lilithset, Fang, Aegis, Titus Lys, Machina, or Cloud. Basically, majority of the awakened or the realized characters are available at your disposal. I think the only one that's not is going to be Cryo. And for those people who are wondering for Ferris's EX, because the boss can absorb the Thunder element, it will not actually absorb the Thunder element there. What I've noticed is just a little bit tidbit for you guys. I actually tested this. Is basically if the boss is weak to one of the other elements, then the boss will not absorb the other element. So that's just how it works. I don't know why, but that's just how it works. Now taking a look at the healers plus brave battery options, there are Charlotta, Quorum Rem, or even in this case Charlotta, even though the boss can actually absorb her stone attacks, she's still quite viable here, and I'll let you know a little bit later as to how you can implement her in your team. As for the summon, I do believe you do have an option between Ifrit and Shiva for your summon, seeing as the boss is actually weak to these two elements. Okay, so now that we have gone through the general tips, let's take a look at some general strategies that I implemented or found out while I was fighting the Might Eater. The first one is going to be for your friend support. Agrias or Charlotta are the best bet here. Agrias still does a decent quite amount of damage with her EX. The silence is not as useful as in the previous fights, but she still has paralysis, so I highly suggest bringing her here. You can also opt out for Cloud, he can also paralyze, but you know, it's up to you. Charlotta I've put here because she does quite a lot of HP damage. You just have to remember to actually bring your own Charlotta as well if you do decide bringing a Charlotta friend. This way you will optimize the amount of damage that you can do. The next one is paralysis your best friend. Basically, you can avoid getting hit by an HP attack if you can paralyze. You can delay the boss's attack as well, and of course delay the summons of its little minions. So paralysis is still pretty good. The next one is to watch out for the O attacks. Now chances are this will be a direct HP attack. However, there is also a chance that this will be a Brave plus HP attack. The best way to handle this without Basch, if you're not using him, is only having one character that has enough Brave not to get broken. At the same time, if it absorbs your energy, will not kill everyone off. So this is a bit of a toss-up, but that's, I think, the best way to handle it. And make sure that character that you are trying not to get broken, I guess, is actually a pretty high DPS character, and hopefully they can re-break the boss or at least reduce it all down to whatever max brave it gets for some reason sometimes. So hopefully you won't have to deal with this too much if you can paralyze it. I do notice that it does the Dance of Tentacles later on, and it does the absorb energy more often in the early stages, but that's just my own experience. I'm not 100% on whether that actually happens all the time or not. Now the next one is have some splash damage to cover these small mobs. Basically having a splash damage is actually very helpful. The actual minions don't actually have a lot of HP, so you do need a little bit of splash just to get rid of them, so you don't have to think about them. They do still get pretty annoying, so try your best to bring at least one splash damager and you should be fine. Now the last sort of strategy that I would suggest to you guys is to actually use your summon before you kill the worms. Now what happens here, basically at the start of the boss's fight, it will usually, well, it will always use Flash of Weakness at the start of the fight. But if you have your summon up at that stage, basically it will be your turn first. So what you can do is actually delay the boss as much as you can before it can actually use Flash of Weakness. This can be done in several ways by just pretty much just delaying it with your attacks with a Quista support, and of course if you can paralyze the boss, then that means they will skip a turn once again. This will require a specific party composition to be optimal. However, you can use this on every single party composition if that's what you want to do. Okay, so now that we have gotten rid of or finished with the general strategies, it's time to take a look at some possible party compositions. And the first one is going to be composing of the boosted team. Basically, you got Basch, Vaughn, Locke, or even Sarah for this one, with a Vaughn support and Shiva for this summon. Now if you're gonna ask me to take a pick of which one should you leave out, honestly all 4 of these characters are pretty good for this fight, and even though Sarah doesn't have her EX Plus yet, she's still pretty useful. And of course, if you have EX Plus Locke, Vaughn, and Basch, this team is basically going to be a cakewalk. Basically, if you have Basch, you definitely want him in the team. That's the main thing here. This is the bully team basically to prevent you from dying because Basch is there. Now, the other thing that you have to take a look at here is you're gonna have to switch out your 3rd character that is not named Basch or Vaughn to your friend Vaughn for high damage. Now obviously if you leave out Vaughn in your party composition, you do have an option between Locke or Sarah to switch out with your Vaughn friend. Now the other thing that I have to mention regarding this party composition is make sure to keep Basch's provoke up, because honestly I made a mistake when I did not put that up and I ended up paying for it. Now the next team that I have for you guys here is what you guys are seeing in this video, which is Basch, Ultimisia, and Sarah with a Vaughn support and Shiva for the summon. Now the strategy sort of still remains the same as Team 1. The only thing here is you want to replace your Ultimisia with a Vaughn friend to save some of her abilities so you can use it later on. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. Now the next team I have for you guys here is Agrias, Cloud, Rem with a Quistis support and a Shiva for the summon. Now if you guys remember earlier in this video during the general strategies, I mentioned using your summon before killing the worms, and there was an optimal team to use this. Now this is what I think is the optimal team to use your summon before killing the worms. Basically you have 2 paralysis characters from Agrias, Cloud, and of course Rem can actually mix around and make sure that the paralysis is up there. The other emergency character you have here is going to be Quistis. Basically if you think you're running out of paralysis, you can switch into Quistis and just delay the boss as much as you can. So this is, I think, the best optimal team for that. You can also replace Rem here with Y'shtola if you really want to. That is another sort of delay. So just keep in mind that Y'shtola will actually, if she uses her stone attack, the boss will actually absorb that. So you just have to keep that in mind. And that's basically it for this party composition. Now the last team I have for you guys here is Ultimisia, Charlotta, and Y'shtola with a Charlotta support and Shiva for the summon. Now like I said earlier, while Y'shtola will be battering the boss with her stone, it will still delay the boss. Double Charlotta for massive HP damage, and then when you're in your summon phase you can use Y'shtola as a brave battery with her Medica too, basically filling up both Charlottas and basically doing crystal realization. I think that's her skill too, that's the name of it. But basically massive damage if you have those 3 during the summon phase. Okay guys, so we are finally at the end of this video, and of course I will give you guys my final thoughts on this fight. Now in all honesty, this fight is pretty much on the easy side, because there's only 2 waves and it's not as if the boss actually has a ton of HP. It's a lot. The level 70 Crystal Awakening Batch 5 boss with the 2 waves with the ghost and the tree is actually a lot harder than this one. I feel like if you end up pulling for Basch, you will be in a in an incredible spot that basically will, I'd say maybe 70 to 80% be able to actually beat this chaos fight. Now obviously you have to have all these summon boards up, pretty good passives, you know, everything, like some of your characters are max limit broken with their EX plus. All those things still apply. So it's still a difficult fight if you're a new player. But if you're sort of a veteran and you have a couple of characters in your arsenal and you have Basch, basically this fight is pretty easy. Now, like I said earlier, you don't actually need Basch in this one. There are other ways to circumvent those HP attacks, and that could be from, you know, killing the boss as fast as you can with the Team 4 composition that I mentioned earlier, or you can bypass the Flash of Weakness with basically paralysis and delay. So it's really going to be up to you how you want to circumvent that Flash of Weakness. If you want to do it, and I put this in air quotes, properly, then you will probably have a hard time if you don't have Basch. So that's all I can say. I find this more on the easier side of the chaos, and you know, truth be told, we are having, you know, we have a lot of options now than before, because, you know, more characters are coming out, more EX Plus are coming out, so things are a little bit better than before. But anyway, that's just my own opinion. Please guys, that is the end of this video. Please remember to click like and subscribe if you haven't already. Hitting that subscribe button is going to help my little channel to grow a little bit more, and of course clicking that like button is going to help with the YouTube algorithm. Also, leave down in the comments below what type of strategy did you use and which characters did you use for that strategy. I always find it very interesting, some other people doing different strategies than the ones that I put up here. So really interested if you guys have any other ones that you want to share. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and on Facebook. I am on those social media. You can look me up at Munchkins Gaming. This is Munchkins logging off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.